exciting to be back. Nice to be back again. So, I mean, this is definitely was an outlook into the future on what is awaiting us, what is possible, what we might be able to do in the future, and where everything, where it might lead. But today, this input from SWIAT this time is definitely something about looking back, lessons learned from ECB trials, and then reflecting upon that to say, okay, what we learned from the ECB trials, how could it help us to scale DLT-based markets in 2025? As you already mentioned, we have been here for quite some time at SWIAT, but nevertheless, we always have some new people here, and as well some new people joining the industry. So I thought it definitely makes sense to maybe say a few words about SWIAT, what we are, what we do. Just in brief, what we do is we offer digital asset solutions across the life cycle for global financial markets, which means we provide software, we provide an ecosystem so that whenever a financial institution wants to issue something, wants to do a settlement or wants to do a redemption, we provide you with the necessary software and the necessary capabilities to design your processes in such a way that you can say, I want to issue something, I want to settle something, etc. And we actually do this in such a way that we are asset class agnostic, something that we have shown as well in the past, for example, by settling trade receivables, but as well issuing bearer bonds or registered bonds, and something that we will talk about today as well of tokenization of traditional securities. So our solutions can be used in primary markets and secondary markets as well, are connected to those, and something that is truly anchored in everything what we do is every design feature is about and aimed at regulated financial institutions, meaning regulated financial institutions must be able to scale the solution that we have developed. This, of course, as well, something that you can notice by our shareholders, DECA, LBBW, and Standard Chartered Ventures, of course, heavily influenced by our financial shareholders, that, of course, we want to provide solutions for them, by them, for the industry. Maybe just some stats and facts, right? Because we have been around for a while, so just sharing some updates maybe at this point. Last year, we have seen 600 million notional volumes in issuances on SWIAT platform, among them as well the largest EVPG issuance and blockchain-based issuance that we have seen by Siemens. We saw covered bonds, digital savings banks bond, and much more. Just a few selections of those that we have worked with, that we provided software to or provided an integration to. We have more than 30 financial institutions on the platform, by that making it actually already the largest financial ecosystem for financial institutions on a blockchain, meaning there is some mass, there are counterparties available for trading, there are counterparties to issue. Almost any time when we talk about a new use case, when we say, okay, we want to explore something new, maybe someone says, I want to issue a new security, are my counterparties already there? It's really interesting to see by now that we can say, well, at least a few of them are already there. So we're really building up towards something that we could call critical mass. Of course, payment is something that is really important and was basically, I would say, the key cornerstone of the landmark transactions that we have seen in last year. Integration with the European, ECB trials, I would say, central bank money, and as well with Connexus, the JP Morgan solution. So we have seen a lot of landmark transactions, meaning these are not the total number of transactions that we had on the blockchain. It's about the transactions where we showcase that something new could be possible and could be done in a scaled way and scaled manner. And in total, we are running on a decentralized blockchain that is prepared and designed in particular for regulated financial institutions, so that any kind of solution that is deployed on this is actually working in a regulatory compliant framework and can be easily adopted. So maybe that on SWIAT stats and facts. So we have our blockchain network, we have the solutions, we have digital asset tokenization solution, settlement engine, securities finance solutions for collateral management, so that there is as well some secondary reuse, and of course some general SWIAT services. And what I'm definitely going to talk about is the blue part, the digital asset solutions, the settlement engine and the tokenization engine part, where that were definitely active, of course, in the ECB trials, meaning in the ECB trials we said, okay, let's show everyone that we can not only issue digital assets, but that we can finally move from a free of payment state to a delivery versus payment state, right? Very important for working with counterparties when you want to decentralize and say, okay, I don't want to rely on intermediaries for achieving delivery versus payment. I actually want to do this bilaterally without anyone involved and in a scaled fashion. So what we said, okay, with our partners, we want to really dive in and really want to show everyone what we can do. And in total, we were involved in 8 transactions that we provided the software to, meaning we provided the financial institutions to do these kind of transactions that are now displayed. I'll pick 3 of them today to present a little bit deeper on why we did them, what we showcased there, and what the highlight maybe was in that particular transaction. And as you can see, it ranges from institutional bearer bonds to registered bonds to corporate bond, but as well to secondary market use cases like repo or intraday repos, where we actually showed that something new was possible. All of those transactions, by the way, were executed and integrated with the Bundesbank solution, with the Trigger solution. That was basically done because our parties said, we want to use the Trigger solution, we want to try that one out. Technologically speaking, it could have been any one of those 3 solutions that were available. Everything that I'm presenting today as well is as well in our SWIAT ECB report, which we just released this week. So there in general, we have some insights on who were the participating parties, who joined, why did they join, and what is their rationale, why did they do it, and what do find we interesting all about this. So I'm just picking 3 different transactions, and maybe starting with the very first transaction here is the innovation in registered bonds. I guess the interesting piece here is actually that registered bonds haven't seen a lot of innovation over the last years, in general, over maybe the last decades. They're usually quite paper-based, take quite a while to settle and to issue, yeah, are usually more designed for smaller institutions to use and to get some financing in. But in this case, and what's quite interesting is that we saw that Bayern LB said, you know what, I want to do an issuance of a registered bond. I'd like to do this in a digital fashion, and I don't want to rely on anyone else, which meant that they said, okay, I'll run the registry of a registered bond on the blockchain, on the SWIAT blockchain, took our tokenization engine for that one, and I want to issue that to the savings bank in Munich, which actually wasn't involved in the Target 2 system, so we needed a payment provider for them. Helaba stepped up and said, of course, we can provide you with the necessary payment integration to that one. And what we could see here was that we could accelerate the settlement quite significantly, meaning from a usually T+2 or even longer settlement, we moved to T+0. And we managed to settle this, as well as central bank money, almost instantaneously. Furthermore, because Bayern LB said, I want to drive this on my own, I want to be independent, I want an independent setup, they said on the SWIAT ecosystem in there, on the blockchain, I will run the application. So there were no further intermediaries required. The interoperability mechanism between the SWIAT blockchain and the ECB exploratory toolbox by Bundesbank, the Trigger Bank solution, of course, was used in such a way that it was extremely easy to navigate through. And even more interestingly, for the redemption process, we provided them with an automatization process so that there was no manual interaction needed, which means we could showcase that even in this case, you can automate, and we showcase that you can scale this setup and solution, meaning digital assets can innovate maybe industries and processes that haven't been touched for decades, but they can as well be scaled as well with payments. Secondly, we said, okay, now we showed we have a digital asset on the blockchain. That's fine. Of course, everyone believes us that this is possible, but most block assets are not on the blockchain, are not digital yet. So maybe we showcase everyone that you can do the same stuff with the traditional security. So what we did is we said, let's show as well a different use case for traditional securities because they are issued already, right? So we said, okay, we have a bond provider, Decker Bank, and a cash provider, NatWest, so that they can do a repo. And there was, of course, tokenization involved. moving the bonds on the blockchain so that on the SWIAT blockchain, NatWest and DekaBank could settle an intraday repo. And with that, and even actually settling multiple intraday repos, the interesting piece was we discovered a new opportunity for treasury units for steering liquidity in the future. So if I am in dire need of liquidity, I can actually get liquidity in via an intraday repo, and meaning I have a much more precise way of steering liquidity in my treasury unit if I like to. And of course here, we showed this already for the redemption process. Here we showed a fully automated DVP along the entire process. Again, same-day settlement is obvious, I guess, for intraday repo. And without any further intermediaries, they managed to pull this transaction off, again, showcasing the power of blockchain and the interoperability solution that we had set up as the SWIAT synchronizer. And as well, fulfilling the core idea on why to do it, we could show that traditional securities can be moved on the blockchain along with digital assets on the same blockchain, and which means that we can amplify the entire ecosystem that we have on the SWIAT blockchain as well, potentially to all the traditional securities that are out there and that are available. Meaning we could enhance traditional securities with the features of digital assets by moving them on the blockchain. And of course, we have heard a lot already about digital assets and so on and all of those potentials, but we are not yet at a stage where everything is digital. So we believe that this has been a cornerstone and key landmark transaction in showcasing how the SWIAT blockchain can actually reshape processes, value creation for the industry. And then, at last, of course, it can't be missed, I would say, is of course the largest DLT-based issuance in Europe. With 300 million, Siemens issued a very large corporate bond, the largest transaction in the ECB trials, and as well the largest EVPG issuance on a blockchain, so in a crypto security registry. And what we really enjoyed from our part, of course, as a software provider in this case was they really wanted to show that this can work in a very usual environment. Meaning we had a lot of investors involved, we had multiple custodians involved. Not all of the investors had to be on the blockchain, yet could use custodians to access the infrastructure. Siemens, of course, needed support by Deutsche Bank because Siemens is not part of Target 2 and not connected to Target 2. So Deutsche Bank, as the payment provider, stepped up, similar as Helaba did in the first transaction with Bayern LB. And what again was extremely interesting to see is, again, there was no further intermediary required to organize delivery versus payment. The institutions could bilaterally organize delivery versus payment. And again, even in this large case, with so many different involved entities, we managed to pull off an automated delivery versus payment mechanism. Meaning, again, no one had to interfere, no one had to step up. It was just running through, checking through all the checks and balances, fully automated, again showing that the setup can truly allow scalability as well beyond 2024. Of course, there are more details to all of this. They are in our ECB report, and there is the total breakdown of all the 8 different transactions. There are statements inside by Siemens, by Thomas, of CFO of Siemens, but as well from Winkelmeier, CEO of Bayern LB, and so on. It might be a really interesting report. I'll provide you with the QR code at the end so that you can sign up and download. We provide all the different highlights, key insights, and as well some tech overviews on why and how we did it in such a way. But of course, then looking forward, right, the title was Lessons Learned and How to Build Scalable Blockchain-Based Markets. Looking forward, we really enjoyed that ECB is stepping up, right? We really enjoyed the message that ECB said, well, we will take a 2-track approach and we will provide you with the solution as soon as feasible so that the trigger mechanism, the payment mechanism, the opportunity to pay in central bank money and connect digital asset movement or traditional asset movement, if you tokenize the traditional asset, to movement of central bank money. And of course, with the SWIAT synchronizer, right, we supported all of these transactions as well, the integration with JP Morgan Connex's commercial bank money solution. And that's something that we want to provide and offer in the future as well, so that whenever you issue and tokenize something on the SWIAT ecosystem, of course, that there is integration with payment solutions and that you don't have to worry about that part at all, and even can automate this in such a way that you can say, okay, we don't need additional people to actually settle it because it's a digital asset. We can actually streamline this, set this process up, and can have a scalable solution. So how can you participate? Of course, how can you join? As mentioned, we already have quite a few entities on board. And our experience in the last year was that not everyone has IT department ready and available and just waiting to be called upon and asked, can you set up a blockchain access? So we said, well, maybe we have a solution for you. We called it SWIAT Access. And basically, in essence, the idea here is that we provide you with an access to the ecosystem so that you can get a web-based user interface to join the ecosystem and navigate between all those different financial applications, these decentralized applications, to issue and settle digital assets or tokenize traditional securities so that you actually have an access point to the blockchain network. And in essence, as you can see up top in the right corner, the financial institution can set up its own user management and privilege management, access via the browser, the different decentralized applications on the SWIAT blockchain, and can use its own node while SWIAT is providing and setting up this operational part. This, for example, was used by DZ Bank last year to join the SWIAT ecosystem because they said, okay, listen, we really want to participate in the ECB transaction with Siemens, but we need a different way because we need you to provide the IT resources because at this time we cannot provide them with you. So they keep up the flexibility, can always change their setup, of course, and say, well, you know what, in the future I want my own access point, and then I can still continue to use these different applications, can still use the different setups and solutions, and still can interact and operate with others, but I still remain with the flexibility to set up my own access point. So maybe answering the question more and more, how to scale DLT-based markets in 2025, I guess it's obvious. What I'm about to share is, from our point of view, we have built up already quite a large network. Of course, it's not yet comparable with the network of traditional securities that we have out there, but we have proved that we can build a true ecosystem where different entities can run their own applications in their own way and can still compete with each other because they want to offer their own securities, want to offer their own interoperability, and yet are on joint infrastructure. Hence, of course, join the largest blockchain-based financial ecosystem for regulated entities in Europe, which is SWIAT by now, meaning you have everything available that you need. You have the counterparties, you have the volume, you get the infrastructure, and of course, the decentralized application, and of course, much more. Meaning, from our point of view, we have seen as well in the past, and actually from the past, when I talk about the past, we started back in 2018 with the very first ideas on how we could build up SWIAT, what it could be, how it could look like, etc. There was always the point of, well, just show me that you can tokenize something, okay? Then can you show me that you can actually do a digital asset? Can you show me that you can build it in such a way that it's regulatory compliant? Well, but there is no payment on the infrastructure. Well, you know what? I need a secondary market opportunity. Well, you know what, need what, etc., etc. Actually, right now, and that's why we're so confident about this, is what we have seen in the ECB trials is all the puzzle pieces are coming together. All the puzzle pieces are there. And now it's just up on us to pick them up and assemble them. Meaning, just pick the use case that you find considerably interesting for your institution, reach out to us, and we're happy to make it happen together with you. It's about getting started and actually starting the motion now, because all the key components are available. And what is now following is the way that we want to build up the financial industry and the financial ecosystem as we hope to envisage it in the future. And it's now about us to build those setups. Thank you very much.